Okay. There we go. Hey, hello, everybody. I am excited to be here with you. If you're watching in my challenge group, then excited to spend some more time with you. If you are watching live on the YouTube channel and you're a regular subscriber viewer, thank you for being here. I'm really excited about the topic today. This is something that I've been working on for quite some time, and I've really been trying to dial this in and really hone it down into some very, very specific actionable steps all about agents and how to get agents to make our offers. And most of this content that I put together here in this training that I want to do today has been centered around this idea that oftentimes when we're making an offer on a listed property with an agent, there's a lot of resistance to make that offer, mostly because it's significantly lower than list price. And so what happens is we get a lot of pushback from that agent where the agent's like, you know what, your offer is pretty low. I don't really feel comfortable making this offer. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste the seller's time. I don't want to look dumb telling the seller about this offer. I already know they're not going to take it because they've said no to higher offers. And you get all of that. Now, put in the chat if that's happened to you. You've talked to an agent. You've called on a listed property. It's distressed. You tell the agent you're an investor. You want to make a cash offer. You get all the way down to your offer and they're like, no, I'm not making that offer. And so if that's happened to you, please put that in the chat. Guys, by the way, put in the chat who you are, where you're from, what you're hoping to learn from this training. And again, I'm excited to spend some time with you. By the way, I want to kick this off with some kind of fun stuff, some exciting news. I'm going to share my screen right now. And I want to show you guys a couple things. Let's see if I can figure this out. There we go. All right, I'm going to show you here. Let's see. This is today's been a great day. Last day of the month, cramming in some closings. So this is one of my fast track students and partners here, Jordan Budd, closed on this deal today for $32,700, I think. No, 32,000. 32,000 on this closing. This happened today. That was a wholesale deal. Another wholesale deal here. This is another fast track student here, Chris Allen. This was a $20,700 wholesale closing today. And I'm excited about this one. This is actually my deal here in Puerto Rico. This was a fix and flip. So check this out, guys. This was a house that I bought for $500,000. This is where I live in Puerto Rico, one of the neighborhoods. There's 26 neighborhoods in my master plan community in Palmas del Mar, Puerto Rico. And we did a new front door. We did new windows. We staged it lightly, paint, new light fixtures. We did not do the floors. And I'll just scroll through some of these. We did a couple of really cool things. You can see the new light fixtures. This is all IKEA. And when we get into, let's go. This is the kitchen. Now, these were existing cabinets that we painted, new knobs, new countertops, and appliances. And then this was the fridge, and it was like rusty and stained and looked really bad, but it worked. So we actually painted it black, and we got a car detailer who paints cars to come paint this fridge for us. So it looks really awesome now. So we did that. We also painted the hood. You can see that. And what else? Like, this is just the bedrooms. This is the primary bathroom, and we gutted this, put in tile, put in shower glass, put in this new vanity and mirrors. So we made that look good. This was the closet. We didn't touch that. These are the other bathrooms. We did a mirror, but didn't do anything in that bathroom. And that's it. Didn't touch outside. We painted a little bit. Well, we did paint the exterior of the house. So we did that. And nice little backyard patio here. And this is the neighborhood. There's the ocean right there. So yeah. So anyway, I bought this for $500. I put $100 into it. We did it in about 30 days. So it was a very quick rehab. We were right on top of it. So spent $500 to buy it, spent $100 on the rehab, listed it for $829, I think, something like that. And we accepted an $805 offer, and we closed today. So about $170,000 profit on a flip, on a fix and flip, and literally a cosmetic flip. So pretty exciting. So guys, again, I want to reiterate to you just how fun this business can be, how lucrative this business can be, and to be able to do all these deals. Just today closed on these 3 deals, a couple more earlier this week. but this can be your everyday, guys. Like this can be the business for you. So I want to encourage you to really do the things that you need to do. I want to invite you guys to apply to my mentorship program and join my community. We call it Fast Track. And you can just go to fasttrackwithjerry.com, apply for that. It is by application and interview only. We keep it very small, very exclusive. I'm a one to few kind of guy. I like a small group setting, and I don't like a giant mass group. I like a small group because I can really spend time with you, get to know you, get to help you, and we can work together as a small community versus maybe a big community, which is awesome too. But I really like the small setting. Okay, so guys, now what I want to do is I want to jump into the presentation that I've prepared, and I want to really drive this idea home, and I really want to hit on this well. And everything I'm going to share in the rest of this training, by the way, I've compiled this into a PDF, and I'll show you how to get this for free. So you have all the scripts, all the objections, all the if-thens, what to do in this exact situation and how to handle this. And so that you have it, and you have it as your playbook. I'm going to give it to you for free. So stick around. I'll show you how to get that. Okay. So I call this model, I've named this the agent manipulation method. Now that sounds kind of derogatory, and I poke a little fun here, and I'm going to have a little fun here. If you're a real estate agent watching this, get ready to be offended because I'm going to kind of take a little bit of a dig at you. By the way, I am licensed, not just a salesperson license, but I have my broker's license. So I know all about, what it's like being an agent. I've never actively worked as an agent in the traditional sense, but I've always had a license. I've had a real estate license now for 20 years. And I've kept that license active all these years. I ran a small brokerage at one point. But anyway, I want to talk about what this looks like. And first, I want to really get into the mindset around a real estate agent. I feel like as an investor, if you're going to be calling and working with agents, if you're going to do the agent model, if you're going to make offers on market, if you're going to be trying to get agents to bring you off market, any type of agent model, outreach. If you follow me, I teach a sniper method, I teach a shotgun method, I teach a reload method, all ways to work with agents to get great deals. And it's been extremely lucrative for me. I've made millions of dollars. I make millions of dollars annually from real estate agents, directly from real estate agents. So this is very, very powerful. But there's some psychology that goes into this. And I want to teach you this method that I call, there's a 5-step process to literally brainwash the agent into making your cash offer. And the first thing that you have to understand about this is this idea that I call egonomics. And egonomics meaning the economics around having an ego. And in my experience in 20 years, most real estate agents, and guys, I'm generalizing, this isn't all agents. I know there's unicorns. I'm kind of ballparking here a bit, but I want to be a little extreme so that you get the idea. Most real estate agents have big egos. They want to feel like the expert. They want to feel like a professional. There's a reason why they're a real estate agent and not a real estate investor. Big egos and small balls. And what I mean by that is they don't want to take any risk. That's why they're a real estate agent. It's not like they don't know how to work hard. They know how to work hard. What's the difference between a real estate agent and a wholesaler? In the technical sense, not a whole lot. You're going to run around, you're going to talk to people, you're going to get them to agree to things, and then you're going to hopefully sell real estate. It's all commission based, and you're hopefully going to make money, right? But it's dealing with buyers and sellers, just like we do with wholesaling. Why aren't they investors? Why aren't they wholesalers? Well, they don't want to take the risk. They just want to get commission for assisting in a transaction. Okay. But they want to be the pro. They want to be the expert, and they want to feel like the expert. So we're going to play to that. We're actually going to build on that. So most agents, they need to be seen. They need to be heard. They need to be right, and they need to feel important. And if you do that, you now have that agent brainwashed, right? Meaning, they're in your back pocket now. They like you. They feel good to you. They're going to trust you. They're going to lower their guard. They're going to take the wall down, and they're going to want to work with you if you do a good job at helping that agent with their ego. Okay. Now, at the same time, you have to stay in control. And the way you stay in control is by asking the right questions at the right time. So if you watch any of my calls, and I've got hours and hours, and I've done hundreds of videos on my YouTube channel, all showing how I do this and how I talk to agents and work with agents. And you'll notice that I'm always the authority. I'm always in control of the conversation. And I do that by asking the right questions at the right time and in the right tone. So I use a tone as well. And you need to become the authority. You have to establish yourself as the authority. Remember, they work for you. So you have to establish yourself as the authority while playing to their ego. And one of the ways that you do this is you show the money. You have to show them the money. Why is it valuable for you, agent, to work with me? And I don't care what agents say, where their motive is the best interest of their client and all that. Yeah, that's nice, but they got to make money, and they're in this to make money, like all of us. So you have to show them that working with you is way more lucrative than retail real estate. And I do this. I show agents how they can make 3 times as much money working with me than they will anybody else or retail clients, right? So that's part of this process. So big picture here is we are going to be working with these agents, and we're going to be playing up on this idea of having a big ego. Okay. Now, let's start with step 1. Step 1 in the agent brainwashing process. And another way to say this, maybe a little more polite, would be how to win over the agent so they're on your side. And what is our objective? Again, our objective is to get them to not just make the low cash offer, but to go to bat for you, to persuade the seller, right? To go try to get this accepted. Not just, I don't really like this. I don't really believe in this. I don't really think your number's legit. I don't really think it's fair. Maybe I'll throw it in front of the seller and see what they do. No, I want them to really go to bat for me. And I just put out a video yesterday from this recording, if you guys watched it. And I kind of went through this process, and I cut to live clips of a call. And by the end of the call, the agent was like, oh yeah, I'll call the seller. Heck yeah, I see where you're at. That makes sense. I don't know if they'll take your number, but I'm going to go to bat to see if I can get this done for you. Okay. All right. So step number 1 in this process is to gather info about the seller or the property. And so here's the scripts, guys. I'm going to give you all the scripts. I'm going to lay it out exactly how I do it. Not verbatim, because every time I do it a little bit differently, but this is the gist of it. I'm going to ask this question. I'm an investor, and this looks like it might be a good opportunity to fix and flip, or maybe keep it as a rental. Can you give me some insight into what's going on with this property? Why is the owner selling? So I come right out of the gate with this. I'll say, you know what? I'm an investor. I'm calling about this property, thinking this might be a good flip or a rental. What can you tell me? What's going on with this property? Now, if it's a brand new listing, you might say something like, are you getting a lot of activity? And that's good insight, because if it's a brand new listing and their phones are blowing up, then you know it's priced good. There's a lot of action going on, and it kind of lays the ground for you as to what you're up against. If it's been sitting around a while, which happens all the time, I'll say, it looks like this has been listed for 60 days. Why do you think it hasn't sold? Now, again, that's another way of extracting information about what's going on. Now, here's the thing about these questions. Even though the idea here is I want to gather some info about what's going on, that's not why we're actually doing it. That's only maybe like 20% of the reason why. Yeah, it's helpful to know. Yeah, that's good insight. It'll help me kind of understand. Maybe there's some things I can offer that would be beneficial to the seller, like post-occupancy or close quickly or things like that. That's helpful, but that's not why we're doing this. Remember, what we're doing right now is we're brainwashing the agent. And when I come out right out of the gate and I say, tell me something, first of all, I'm leading the conversation. I'm asking questions, and they're answering those questions. And so it puts me into a place of authority, because I'm asking the questions and they're answering the questions, and it gets the agent to start to open up, hopefully. So here's what will happen. You're going to get a couple different responses. So the response might be, if it's positive, the agent is going to start blabbing on, and they're going to tell you all kinds of stuff about the property and the seller. And this is great. Like, this is kind of a positive response, would be the agent's like, oh, well, let me tell you about this and that and this and that. And they just go on and on. I love that, because they're talking. The more they're talking, the more I'm brainwashing, the more I'm building rapport, the more I'm gaining trust, the more that I'm establishing the authority. Now, some agents, they're like the movie Inception, and they got like training defenses up in their brains, right? Like, they're not going to get brainwashed that easy. And what they're going to do is they're going to try to do the same thing you're doing, and they're going to redirect. And they're going to say, well, what do you want to know? Now, when an agent says, okay, well, what do you want to know about the property? That's them trying to regain authority as the one in charge. So you got to know that. So what do? I turn it back around because I got to get back in the right position here. So I'll say, well, help me understand what's going on. Is the seller hoping for a fast, convenient cash offer from an investor like me, or are they holding out for retail? Now, I'm answering their question with another question to put me back in the place of authority. You guys following this? This is psychology here. We're using, again, we're brainwashing, so we got to do all the right mind tricks, right? These are Jedi mind tricks here that we're doing. Now, the agent might be doing this subconsciously, but you're not. You're doing it consciously. So when that happens, what's next? Well, now we're going to move to step 2. And step 2 is to get the agent to agree with you on value. Step 3 is going to be on the cost of repairs. You could reverse those. There isn't an order on steps 2 and 3, but I usually go out with value. So this is what I'll say. I'll say, hey, if I buy this property and I fix it up to market standards, what do you think the back end value would be? Or what do you think the resale value would be? Guys, don't say ARV. Don't say after repair value. That's a flipper or wholesaler thing. They don't know what that means. But they do know what back end value or resale value is. And what you're asking them is, hey, if I buy it, fix it up, and I try to resell it, what do you think I can sell it for? Now, again, it's less about what they say and what they think the value is, and it's more about positioning, getting them to open up. And this is where now you're valuing their input. They're feeling like the expert. They're feeling like you're trusting their opinion. They're feeling like, their 40, 50, 60 hours, whatever they went to school was for something, right? To become a real estate agent. They're feeling smart. They're feeling good. And you're feeding the ego now by asking them this question. So what kind of responses might we get? Okay, well, here's response A. Agent gives an opinion about the value. And this is about 20% of agents are going to give an opinion about value. Only 20%. Only 2 out of 10 agents are going to have a freaking clue or think they have a clue about what the back end value is. Now, this blows my mind. If you're an agent and you list somebody's distressed property, don't you think it's your job to know the value? I think it's your job. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what you were hired to do. How can you give an opinion on a list price? How can you give the seller a list price if you don't know the value of that property and what it could sell for, what the potential upside is? How could you do that? So, but here we go. This is most agents. They don't know. 20% do. So this is what would happen. Let's say they throw out a number. I'll respond like this. I'll say, that would be awesome if I could get that price on the back end, right? Always agree. When you agree with the agent, they feel like they're being heard. I'll say, I'm looking right now at sold properties in that neighborhood. And let's say that I like the number they gave me. I can see what you mean. I'm seeing a flip on the next street over on 123 Main Street that just sold for $350,000 or whatever, right? So if you like the number they give you, then I agree with them. And I say, yeah, I'm looking at a comp right here. I see what you mean. Now, if I don't like the number they give me, then I'll say, I'm not seeing any comps at that price. Are you seeing something I'm not seeing? Now, again, I'm assuming I'm wrong, they're right. So I'm not calling out their authority. I'm just questioning. I'm just like, help me understand it. Have you seen the flip on the next street over on 123 Main Street that just sold for $350,000? So now I'm going to start having a conversation about value. And guys, you have to know how to do this. You have to know how to, on the fly, pull it up on Redfin or Zillow and start looking at the neighborhood and be like, okay, that's a flip. It's all fixed up and nice. That just sold. It's 2 streets over, 1 street over on the same street. And you have to be able to talk about this. So if you're not comfortable doing that, this is one of the most important skills to learn in order to do the agent model well. You have to be able to have an intelligent conversation about what the heck is going on in the neighborhood. Now, if you take that call that I did yesterday on my YouTube video where I broke that down, then the agent said to me, she said, well, there's an active on the same street for $389. And I said, okay, let's take a look at that. I said, okay, I'm looking at it. I see that right now. I said, you know what? This has been sitting here for a while and it's not selling. But also on the same street, there's a sold that just sold that was fixed up. And that sold for $360. So we have an active not selling for $389. We have a sold that recently sold for $360. What do you think? I mean, would you agree with me that value is probably $360, not $389? And she's like, yeah, okay. So she's trying to like overvalue it. And then I brought it right back down. I did it in a really good way without being offensive or calling her out. Like, no, you idiot. You can't use an active for a comp. You have to use a sold for a comp, right? And so like I didn't do that. I did it kind of the right way. But see, this is the process. So if they respond with an opinion, you like the opinion, talk about it. You don't like the opinion, talk about it. You got to be able now at this point in time to look this up. Now, I do no homework ahead of time. I do this actually while I'm talking because I don't have time to sit here and comp properties for an hour before I call every agent. I do it while I'm on the phone with them. Okay. All right. So what about a different response? So what if the agent says, I got no clue what the back end value is? And I get this 80% of the time. Agent says, I don't know. I don't remember. I'm not at my desk. You're the flipper. You tell me. All kinds of stuff. All kinds of ways to say, I don't know. Now, when they say, I don't know, in whatever way they say it, I'll say, all right, well, let's take a look together. I'm looking right now at a similar home that recently sold in the same neighborhood. Do you see the flip on the next street over at 123 Main Street? Do you see that? Now, if they're driving in their car or whatever, I'll have the conversation anyway. Say, I know you're driving right now, or I know you're on appointment or whatever, but I'm looking here right now. Did you see the one that just sold on 123 Main Street? Have you seen that one? No, because, they don't know. So they're going to be like, no, duh. So then I'll be like, yeah, that sold for 360. And it's just like our house. It's one street away, same square footage. That's a flip. It's fixed up. That got 360. Oh, here's another one. Did you see the one over here? I assume that they know their job. So I always am like, have you seen this one? Have you seen that one? No. Okay, well, here's what happened. I tell them what happened. And then what I want to get to here, the whole full circle here, is I want to get the agent to feel good about the value together. So then what I'll do is eventually, it takes a couple minutes maybe. I'll talk about 2 or 3 comps, but I'll say, it seems fair to say that if I fixed up this property, I could probably resell it for around 360, 450, whatever it is. Would you agree? Okay, very important. Would you agree? I want the agent to agree. Now, if the agent says, no way, it'll get way more than that. Okay, well, help me. I'd love if it got more than that. That'd be fantastic. Help me see it. Show me where you're getting that. Don't send me a freaking CMA. Let's look right now. Right? I'm right here. Let's look. Show me where it is. I'm going back 6 months. I'm staying in the neighborhood. I'm looking at houses that are in the same range of square footage. Like where is the high comps you're talking about? Okay. So like, now again, I do that in a kind of polite way. I don't want to be offensive, even though I'm brainwashing them. They don't know I'm brainwashing them, but I'm brainwashing them. And so then I want to get to this place where we come to agreement and alignment on value. Okay. Stay with me, guys. I'm going to show you where this all comes together. Okay. So then what? Step 3 in the brainwashing process is now do the same exercise, but on the rehab cost. Okay. So I'll say, let me ask you, in order to get whatever number you just agreed on, 450, 360, whatever, on the back end, how much do you think the rehab is going to cost? I might even say, let's talk about what would you recommend? So that's a bonus question. What would you recommend? Would you recommend I redo these wood floors, or do you think I can get away with carpet in the bedrooms? Man, that roof is looking a little sketchy. Do you think I should put a new roof on? Are those windows okay, or should I replace those windows? Now, why am I asking? Do they know about anything about rehabbing? Probably not. But when you ask them, they feel like the expert. They start to trust you. They start to align with you. So then I'll talk about it. Now, one of your responses is going to be positive. One of them is going to be negative. So here's what we do. If the agent gives an opinion about cost, again, this is about 20% of the time. Same with value. They're going to be like, yeah, I think the cost is going to be X. If you think it's accurate, then I'll say, yeah, that sounds about right. I think I would budget about $50,000, to do everything to get this thing to match those comps we just looked at. I think I'd have to spend about $50,000. That sounds about right. Now, what if they're way off, which happens all the time? They're way off. So they'll say, I think it probably could get that all done for like $20,000, and it's like $80,000. So then what I'll do is I'll say, oh man, dude, if I could get it done for $20,000, that would be fantastic. In fact, if you know people that could do this whole rehab for $20,000, I'll hire them in a nanosecond. Are these contractors you know? So, I'm sort of like getting to the bottom of it, and they're like, maybe I'm off. I'll say, you know what? Let's just walk through it with me. I'll say, if I do the roof, I do the windows, I do the siding, I do new kitchen cabinets and countertops, I do baths, flooring, paint, etc. Man, I'm thinking this is going to be closer to 80,000, maybe more. Okay. So I got to help them get there. If they're not with me and in agreement and in alignment, this isn't going to work. I have to get them to agree with me. So I'll slow it down. I'll walk through the items so here again, you have to understand a little bit of cost of renovations, not totally. Guys, I follow a system which is just light, average, heavy, right? And you can go off some ranges. I've got content around how to really get, very close to what numbers are based on if it's a very light rehab, an average rehab, which is kitchen, bath, carpet, paint, or a full blown everything, roof, window, siding, and all of it, right? So you have to be able to kind of get to these numbers very quickly on the fly based on what you're looking at. I do this even without pictures. If you watch that video I talked about earlier from yesterday, there were no pictures on the property. It's okay. I just asked some questions. Tell me about the kitchen. Tell me about this. Tell me about that. Okay. So it's sounding like I'm probably going to be around 40 to 50,000 if I've got to do cabinets, counters, flooring, paint, blah, blah, blah. And so I'll get to that same thing that way too. Okay. Now, what if the response is, I got no clue what the rehab is, or they say something like, well, you tell me, you're the investor, like, right? How many of you have got that? Put that in the comments. If you've asked this question and the agent says, well, I don't know, you're the contractor, you tell me. Okay. In other words, I have no clue. I don't know how to do my job because I should know what it costs. I should know what it'll resell for, because how could I advise a seller on a price if I don't understand values and I don't understand condition? You can't. You're just guessing, which is probably why it's way overlisted, because you're just way off on what you think is going on. Okay. So if the agent has no clue, you're going to say, you know what, let's run through it real quick. Roof, window, siding, kitchen, bath, flooring, paint, blah, blah, blah. I think that's going to cost around $80,000, maybe more. So I'm getting them to kind of do the exercise with me. And again, I got to get the agent to agree on the rehab cost. So if they don't know and they're like, well, I don't know, you tell me, I tell them, I'm like, okay, well, here's what it's going to be. It's going to be, by the time I do this, and this, it's going to cost around 80,000. And they're like, oh, okay. Well, if you say so, yeah, I say so. You don't know, I know, because you just told me you don't know. So now I'll just be the authority for you and tell you how to do your job. So then you got to, again, get full circle to that. Now I might say something like, man, you're right. I can't believe how much it costs these days to rehab houses. Does that make sense? Do you agree with me? Are you with me here? So I got to get them to make sure that they're on board with me. Okay, so moving right along here, guys. Step 4 now is a disruptor. So what I'm going to do here in step 4 is I'm ready to make my offer, but I'm gonna do like a 1-2 punch, right? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna talk about the double dip technique. So I'm gonna say, hey, before we talk about the offer, let's talk about the buyer's agent side. I'm unrepresented. So help me decide what makes the most sense here. We could do one of two things. Option 1 is we could waive the buyer side. I don't need representation. I'm an investor. So we wouldn't need to ask the seller to pay any buyer side commission. Option 2 is you represent me on the buyer side. And to avoid any conflict with the seller, I'll pay the buyer side commission directly to you. That's what I'd prefer, because my goal with you is to win big working together so that we can create a long-standing working relationship and do ongoing deals together for years. Which option do you recommend, and what commission would you like to get by representing me as the seller? Now think about this, guys. Just think about this for a minute. Okay. With the new guidelines, it's no longer an assumed 3%, 3% or 2.5%. You now get to negotiate and talk about the buyer side. So I'll say to that agent, not only will I let you represent me as the buyer side, I'll pay it. Now I got to factor that into my number, but I'll pay it on the buy side. So now you don't have a conflict of interest with the seller, because you could tell the seller, don't worry about the buyer side. My buyer's covering it. And it's really none of their business. It's no longer like, it takes away the issue of like, oh man, you're making 3% on the listing and you're getting 3% on the buy side. I want a better deal. Like, it avoids that conflict or that questioning of why the agent's getting paid twice, because they're not paying it. In fact, I just had this happen to me on my, that flip I did that I showed you in the very beginning. My listing agent brought me an offer. We didn't accept this one, but she brought me an offer and it was with her buyer. And I already have a flat fee listing on the list side. And I said, oh, okay, so it's your buyer. Yeah, it's my buyer. All right. How's the commission being handled? Am I paying it? How much is it? Is the offer asking for me to pay it? I need to think about that, factor it in, see what my net's going to be. And this is what the agent says to me. She says to me, don't worry about it, Jerry. The buyer's paying it and they're covering my commission. She wouldn't even tell me. And I was like, okay, I mean, you're right. I don't really care because I'm not paying it. So it's none of my business. And you worked it out with your buyer and cool. Right? So that's how cool this is now. The new way of doing this is so much better. I love it. So then I'll say to that agent, okay, well, let's talk about it. What do you want for a commission? And they're going to be like, well, this is what happened the other day. It was so funny. He's like, well, my broker won't let me take any less than 3%. I mean, I would probably be okay to take less, but my broker, you know how brokers are, right? Like they don't let me take less than 3%. So I'm going to get the full 3 from the listing side and I'm going to get the full 3 from you. I'm going to make 6% on this deal, baby. And I'm like, good for you. Let's go. Yeah. Because the more money they see, the more they're going to want to work with me. They're going to be like, yeah, that Jerry Norton guy, I make money with that guy. How do I do deals with him? Let's go. I'm calling him next time. He lets me double end it and I can pay and I get paid big time. Right? That's what we're trying to create here. So why this is a disruptor is because before I go with my offer, I got to get them pumped up. I got to get them seeing dollar signs. I got to get them thinking, how do I get this guy's offer accepted? I'm going to make a bunch of money. Even though they're going to say, you know what? It's not about that. It's about my client. Yeah, right. Yeah, right it is. I mean, hopefully it is. But let's be real here. You're not doing this because you're a nice person. You're doing this to make money. Okay, so then we move on to step 5. And step 5 is we're going to come to a logical conclusion here. Okay, we're using logic to brainwash the agent into why our offer is fair. We have to get the agent to agree and understand and agree that our offer is fair. We've came to a number using some sort of a calculated analysis. Okay, so here's what this looks like. Now that we have our heads around the numbers, let's talk about my cash offer. If I buy this house and I spend $80,000 to fix it up and I turn around and I flip it for $450,000, after paying closing fees when I buy it, closing fees when I sell it, and after factoring in commissions when I sell it, as well as financing costs because my investors fund my deals, and then after factoring a modest profit, after all of that, I would need to be around $225,000 for this deal to make sense. I'll even tell agents my exact formula. I'll say, you know what? I need to be all in for around 70%. So if I take 70% of 450 and then I back out 80,000 for the fix, that's going to put me down in the low 2s. And again, I ballpark it. I say around 225. I'll say I need to be in the low 2s. Again, I'm just putting out a ballpark type of offer so that way that agent can then go see what the seller responds to it, how they respond to it. Okay, does that make sense? So, and then be quiet, right? So this is where you're going to shut the heck up and you're going to be quiet. Guys, I'm making a latex glove water balloon here. Real quick. We got time for this, don't we? Christian, what are you doing with this, buddy?
Making a water balloon.
Are you allowed to have this inside?
No, I'm keeping it outside. And
Keep this outside.
it's wet.
Okay, shut the door. I'm on. Say hi to YouTube, by the way.
Hi.
Okay, take Bruno with you.
Bruno, come on.
Okay, so we got to get that agent to then. We got to throw that number out there, see what they do, see how they feel it out, see how they respond to that. Just be quiet, and you're going to get some responses here, right? So let's say that you get a good response. So they're going to say, you know, I'm not sure the seller will accept that offer, but let's find out. I'm more than happy to make the offer. Let's go, right? Like they're on board. And I'll say, all right, let's do this. Call the seller, let them know that you have a cash offer for around $225,000. See how he responds, and then let's go from there. If they agree, great. Let's put it in writing. How's that sound? Now, what I'm looking for here is I want to feel out the seller and see what they do with a 225, around 200, a low 200 offer. Let's say it's listed for 299 or 329.9 or some crazy dumb number. Let's see what they do. Let's say that the agent does this, right? And they throw out 225 and then they call you back and they say, you know, I talked to the seller. 225 is too low, but they really would like to be, can you make 240 work? Okay, well, it was just at 329.9 and now they just came down to 240. Maybe we can. I don't know. We just kind of ballparked everything. So I'll say to them, you know what? I don't know. That might be a little more than I can do right now. Let me sharpen my pencil. Let me see what I can do here. And now I'll go back and I'll deep dive. I'll really look at the numbers. Maybe I'll pre-shop it to some buyers. Hey, I got this deal. I'm about to sign on it. What do you think? Whatever. Like I've uncovered motivation. That's the whole point here. I want to uncover motivation before I spend more time. Once I uncover motivation, I'm fine to spend more time doing a deeper analysis. And guys, if you watch any of my content on how I do direct to seller, this is exactly what I do. I anchor low. I get a response. If they're motivated, they're going to come somewhere near my number. Then I'm going to work that number a little harder and see if I can get a deal put together. Everything is in the right time. It's all about timing. So let's say that we offer this 225 and the agent gets back and they're like, yeah, no way. They said no way. They said, go play in traffic, go pound sand, or they counter back at like 300 and you're at 225 and it was listed for 329. They don't really come down. Okay. Then I'll say, well, let's follow up. Let's see what happens. Let's stay in touch. And we go on. So let's say that the response is a little different. Let's say that you did a bad job brainwashing. Because if you did the brainwashing correctly, then when you get to step 5, they should be more than willing to make the offer, no matter how ridiculously low it is. I get this done almost every time. Very rarely do I not get the agent to make the offer. And sometimes my offers are ridiculously lower than list price. Okay, so this works. You got to just do it right. The better you do it, the better they're brainwashed, the better they're excited and willing to make your offer. Okay, so let's say though that they're reluctant and they say, I know for a fact the seller won't accept that price. They already turned down a higher offer than that yesterday or whatever. How many of you guys get that? Leave a comment in the chat if you get that, if you've gotten that response. I know for a fact the seller won't take that offer for 225. I'm not even going to call them. I'm not even going to waste my time. You're wasting my time. They're not going to take that. 2 things happened. Well, first of all, if they're offended, then you totally botched this up. You did not do it right. Even if they say no to me, which very rarely happens, they're not offended. Why? Because I logically got them to why my number's what it is. And it's actually quite fair because look, all these things going on, spending money, all this, I got to make a few bucks. 225 is actually really fair. It's really accurate for where it should be. Now, it may sell for more because somebody might pay more or whatever. That's fine. But at least they're not offended at why you came to your number because you helped them get there, right? So understand that. That's how you don't offend them with this. Now, what if I pick up the phone and I say, hey, I'm calling about this property over there. I want to make a cash offer, and my cash offer is 225. They're going to be offended. You didn't build up to that. They're going to hang up on you. They're going to say, freaking investors, they always lowball me. They're going to be upset. This way, they're not upset. Now, they still may not want to, like in this response, where they're like, yeah, I know they're not going to take that. This is what I'll do. I'll say, yeah, you're totally right. But here's the thing. Even though you're certain that they'll reject it, and I agree with you, they're probably going to reject it, right? Always agree with them. It's still in your best interest to make the offer because worst case, another low offer will spur a price reduction from the seller, which will help you sell the property faster. Now, every time I tell this to an agent, like a light bulb goes off, like, why didn't they think of this? They're like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, we're priced too high. We're getting low offers. We really should lower the price. Duh. Like common sense, lower the freaking price and it'll sell. So you tell them my low offer, even though they'll reject it, it's going to probably get a price reduction, which means it's probably going to sell faster, which means you get paid. Right. And by the way, it'll only take you 5 minutes to call the seller and make my verbal cash offer. Can you do that for me? And then if this happens, I almost always get them to then make the offer. Almost every single time I can get that agent to make the offer. And guys, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten deals following this brainwashing process, manipulating the agent into making the offer. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten deals half of list price or lower just because I was willing to do it and no one else was. Just because everyone else is looking at that thing going, it's overpriced, I'm not even going to waste my time. Just because the seller said, here's the thing, because the seller said no last week or last month, doesn't mean they'll say no today. Motivation changes monthly, weekly, daily, and even hourly. They could have said no to a higher offer yesterday, and today they say yes. That's how people work. It's emotional. So never assume that they'll say no again just because they said no earlier. Okay, so when agents say that and they know for a fact, they don't know nothing. They don't know for a fact. How do they know for a fact what's inside the seller's head? They don't. Nobody does, but the seller, and even that no one knows half the time. Okay, so that's why we don't let that go that way. Okay, now here's the end game, though, guys. All of this whole brainwashing exercise and doing all these steps and everything. Here's the end game. It's about the relationship, not the deal. Okay, so when I brainwash an agent, I'm not just brainwashing them to make the offer at hand. Like that's sort of the exercise I'm going through. But my real objective is that agent is a walking, talking zombie for me for the rest of their life. Every time they see a distressed property, they're calling me. They don't even know why. They're like, I don't know what happened. Something's programmed in my brain. Jerry brainwashed me. I'm unconsciously know. But what I do is when I see a distressed property, I call Jerry because he's my guy. He's my cash buyer. He performs. He gets it done. And I like working with him because I make 3 times as much money. So here's what I'll do. I'll say the next time you go on a listing appointment and it's a distressed situation, tell the seller the following. I'm teaching the agent how to make 3 times more money. That's what my job is. My job is to go out there and teach agents how to do their job and make money. That's what I feel like one of my callings in life is to do. Teach agents how to do their job and make money. So I'll say, this is what you tell the seller next time you sit down on a listing appointment. I have an investor who can buy this property as is for cash, and he can close quickly. He can give us a no obligation offer. Now, if that offer is acceptable to you, seller, we would avoid showings, inspections, doing any repairs, appraisals, financing. We would save a lot of time and hassle. So before you decide to list it with me, which we can do, I suggest we get his offer and we see what you think. If you like it, then we can move forward and get it done. If not, we can go ahead and list it. The agent's giving the seller 2 options, cash now or brain damage and list it later. Which one do you want? Best of all, he covers my commission and he covers all of the commission. So it won't cost you a dime. You don't have to pay a list fee. You don't have to pay a buyer side. He takes care of me when we get a deal done. Let's entertain his offer. Now, guys, this is a freaking game changer. If you can get agents to go on listing appointments and do this, good night, you're going to do deals. Now, I'll say to that agent, I'll pay you whatever fee you want. I'll pay you 10%. So here's how that works. I'll give them an example. This is the example I use. So I'll say, for simplicity, let's say that my cash offer is $100,000. Like that's what I need to pay for this property. You're going to need to go to the seller at 90. So that way I can pay you 10. So that way I land at 100. So you go tell the seller 90. If the seller takes 90, I'll pay you 10 and we'll get a deal done. Now, that way the agent's like, okay, are you telling me, Jerry, that no showings, no repairs, inspections, appraisals, financing, none of that, no on market, none of that. And rather than get a 3% listing on 100,000, which is $3,000, a buyer's agent's more than likely going to bring a buyer. I got to deal with all this brain damage to do this because it shows horrible because it's got cat piss everywhere and furniture piled to the ceiling. And I can't even walk through the basement because it's a maze, right? I got to do that. Or Jerry gives me 10 grand. I call him. He gives me a number. We put it in front of the seller. They like it. We're done. And I make over 3 times as much money working with Jerry. Hell yeah, let's go. They will become now an army of finders. They will become an army of bird dogs for you. My goal is to turn agents into bird dogs. Okay? I'll say, as far as your commission, let me walk through this again. As far as your commission, if you bring me an off-market opportunity, I can pay you whatever you like, as long as we build it into the total price. For example, let's say we agree on a 10% commission. If my total cash price for the property is $100,000, we would need to offer $90,000 to the seller so I can add in your commission of $10,000. So I end up at $100,000 all in. Does that make sense? Now, this is like, agents never thought of this. Like they never thought, oh man, I wonder if I work with investors, if that's a good idea. Hell yeah, it's a good idea. If you work with Jerry and now if you do this, it's a good idea. It's a really smart idea. Okay. So this is that model here, guys. Now, To wrap up here, I just want to tell you guys that, everyone that's watching this, is learning how to do this with agents. There is some finesse there. And I do my very best to show you, model it, teach it, demonstrate it. I do a lot of live calls. But if you're in my Fast Track program, I actually work with you directly to do this. One of the things we do is we do a lot of interviews. We do a lot of live calls. I do a lot of live call feedback. At my live training event that I do just exclusive for Fast Track, what we do is we actually do calls. You pull up your deals, your leads, your stuff you're working on. I call it with you. You call it, I call it. We get it done. Like, I show you how to do this. I work with you really closely on how to take all of this and apply it. Sometimes the missing thing is just having someone in your corner helping you do this. My goal is, with agents in a specific market, is to do 3 to 5 deals a month. If you average $10,000 on the low side per transaction, that's $30,000 to $50,000, zero marketing cost. And the better you do this and the more agents you get out on the streets as bird dogs for you, the more it works, the more money you make, because now they start calling you. And when agents are calling you, that's when you've done this right. Okay, so guys, go to fasttrackwithjerry.com. Would love to work with you. In the groups here, you can talk to Frank Chen. You can talk to John Ferguson. Again, it is by interview and application. It doesn't matter about experience. That's not what you have to do to qualify for the program. It's really more about, are you in a place in your life where you're willing to put in the work, do what it takes, coachable, teachable, humble, and willing to build a business. We want to work with people that want to first build a 6-figure business, then go on to build a 7-figure business. And we have Fast Track students in the program that are now lots doing 6 figures a year and lots doing 7 figures. Guys, over $1 million a year wholesaling and flipping real estate. So super exciting. And guys, I mentioned that I was going to give you this for free. I've had this, my agent scripts out for a while, agentofferscripts.com. We just added this entire, breakdown of the agent manipulation model or method, and we added it to that. So if you already downloaded that once, go back and do it again, because you'll get that entire PowerPoint presentation I just went through. You'll have that. So you can then really walk through that, make sure you get the wording down and the verbiage and the steps and the processes and the objections and the different responses. Really dial that in and get that working for you well. Again, I'll give that to you for free. Why? Just because I want you to win big at this game. So guys, if you appreciate that and you find value in what we did here, leave a comment and say, Jerry, you're a flipping genius. And just appreciate you guys so much. I haven't watched one bit, guys, the comments here. So I have no idea what's going on in the chats. But yeah, I've got some comments in here. Fast Track has changed my life. That's really cool. Where do you sign up? So this question here, where do I sign up? Go to fasttrackwithjerry.com, Giovanni, fasttrackwithjerry.com. Okay, so let's see here. I'll take a few minutes here. I do have to run here in a minute. How does structuring or leveraging agent commission affect the deal if you're wholesaling it? Yeah, so let's say that I use that example there where I say to the agent, offer 90, I'll pay you 10. So remember, all you have to think about is your all-in number. So my all-in number is 100. When I go to dispo the deal as on a wholesaling, if I take this to a cash buyer at 120, then my spread is still 20 because the cash buyer is going to step in. They're going to bring 120 to closing, 20 to me, 10 to the agent, 90 to the seller. So it's all the same. It doesn't even matter. Just make sure that you're factoring it in because you're bringing the total number to your cash buyer. Okay. All right, Tyler, what do you got for me? Next question. Okay. It depends on what kind of finishes you put in. Oh yeah. So when you say to an agent, what do you think the cost of repairs is going to be? One of the ways to say, I don't know, is they say, well, it depends. Depends what you do, which is true. It does depend what you do. But remember, I like to do the value first because then we look at comps. So then what I'll say to them is I'll say, well, I mean, we just looked at that comp that sold for 360. And if I'm going to get 360 for the same house, one street over, I have to match that, don't I? Yeah, you do. Okay, well, looks like they did kitchen, looks like they did tile, looks like they got shower glass, looks like they got new this, new that, new that. So I'm using what we just looked at. I say, if I have to make it look like that, what do you think it's going to cost? Okay, so that's how you respond to that, because that's what we do. By the way, if the rehab's crap, then we get to also do a lower standard rehab. Some markets, they do very lipstick on a pig rehabs. Like they just sort of paint cabinets and throw on some counters and they leave the tile and they paint. Other places you go to where you're like, man, they blew out walls, they put a header in, they opened up the kitchen, they did everything, it's brand new. The bathrooms are to the nines, like, wow, they spent 120 grand on this. Other markets, we look at comps and they might spend 80 for the same house. So it's all about the market. The market doesn't lie, guys. So you get your head around that when you're talking to the agent. But awesome question. I like that question. Okay, next question, Tyler, or do you want me to grab one? Yeah, need a mentor, please. Go to fasttrackwithjerry.com. Would love to work with you. T Nails. That's how you get that one-on-one help. If I were to call a seller and they say they already have a contract written up with the title company, where do I go from there? If I were to call a seller and they say they already have a contract written up with the title company, well, if they're saying I'm already under contract, then they've already signed with another investor. So you would say, okay, well, if something changes, let me know, and then put them in a follow-up sequence, because if that deal falls out, you want to be next in line. But you're not going to contract over somebody. I call that backdooring. So don't ever backdoor somebody. That means it's under contract. Now, sellers sometimes don't understand that it's illegal and immoral to backdoor. So they might be like, well, I already have a contract, but is your number higher? I'll just throw that one aside and I'll go with you. That's unethical and illegal, because they have a legally binding contract with somebody else. Okay. So, do the right thing, but definitely follow up, because a lot of wholesalers lock stuff up over contract, it falls out of contract, and then you want to be ready when that happens. Oops. Yep. So guys, this is Egonomics 101 right here. Jerry's ego. When you tell him he's a flipping genius, it just feeds that ego. It's a wonderful thing. Thank you, Lishan. Okay. Yeah, I think I answered this one. Let me just make sure. Is the agent commission paid from your wholesale fee? No, it's not paid to the wholesale fee. It's passed on to the buyer and the buyer pays it. But again, it's wrapped into the total number, so it doesn't matter, right? So whether I pay 90 and 10 to the agent, or I pay 100 and 0 to the agent, I'm still at 100. So when I take it to dispo, it's all about what's my total number, what's my dispo number, I make the difference. Okay, yeah, let's go. Let's go. I got 6 more minutes. Let's go. Give me that other one. Yep, here we go. Best way to find good buyers other than going through realtors. Best way to find good buyers other than going through. Well, I mean, the agent model is just one model. That's what we talked about today. I would say go on propwire.com. You get unlimited searches and downloads for seller leads. And then what you do is you skip trace those, you call them. It's very inexpensive, and you can get in front of sellers directly that way. There's probably 100 different ways to get in front of good buyers. You just have to, what I recommend is deep dive one. In the beginning, I would go with free and low cost methods, like agent outreach is free. And then as you build a business, reinvest back into the business, and you can do more expensive and higher quality marketing channels. Okay, so fast track link, guys, again, is, let me pop that up real quick. It's simply fasttrackwithjerry.com. That's going to take you to the application page. Okay, so fasttrackwithjerry.com. You'll click that button, you'll fill out a form, and then our team will sit down and we'll go through an interview process with you. Again, on that interview, what we're finding out is, are you a good fit? I'm going to be spending time with you, and I'm very, I don't know how to say this in a nice way. I'm very selective about the people I want to spend time with. Meaning I want to work with people who at least got their head on straight, and they're ready to put in the work. They're ready to commit. They're ready to do what it takes, and they're coachable and teachable. That's who I'm looking for. And we keep it very small. So this isn't like just open to the masses. We keep it very small, and you can learn more about that and see if it's a good fit for you. Okay, 5 more minutes. Let's see what else we got. what does contingent mean in real estate? So contingent just means that it's pending with a contract. Okay, so it's contingent upon the other offer coming through. So I like contingent and pendings because there's a high likelihood if it's distressed that falls out. So I'll tell that agent, I'll say, hey, if this falls out, I'm your guy. Call me if something happens here. The best time to go into a seller with your low offer or your offer is after they fell out of contract with somebody else, because now they're even more motivated to get something done. They just wasted a bunch of time with somebody. Okay. Do you figure in the flipper's holding costs to your sell price? Yeah. So guys, by the way, I forgot to mention this. Notice how when I was going through my scripts, I'm talking to the agent as if I'm the buyer. Okay. So I talked about, hey, if I resell this, what's the number? What's it going to cost me to fix it up? I'm wearing the role of the end buyer flipper usually, because that's who we're taking the deal to. So we're underwriting the deal to the buyer who's going to come in and do the thing. Okay. Now, how do you do that? Well, you're just the acquisition side of the deal, right? So I'll say to agents, if an agent says to me, Jerry, are you a wholesaler? I'll say, well, do you mean sometimes do I sign my contract? Yeah, all the time. I work with a group of investors, and my role is on the acquisition side. I work on the front end. I help find the deals. Typically, my investors will come in, they'll fund those deals, and they'll take those on and flip them, right? So like you're still representing the cash buyer in the transaction. And what allows you to do that is an assignment of contract, right? So I want to position myself as the buyer. And if you feel uncomfortable with that, because I do buy a lot, so I can actually do that. But if you've never bought a property and you're just a wholesaler or you're working on your first deal, then maybe don't say me. Like my 18-year-old son was doing that. I heard him on calls and he was saying, yeah, I buy houses and I do this and I do that. And I said, I don't think I'd say it that way. What I would say is I'd say, I work with a group of investors and we're looking to buy a property in this neighborhood, or my group of investors and partners that I work with, we're interested in making a cash offer on this property. Okay. So we, meaning cash buyers, but see, you can say that with your head held high without having an integrity issue. Okay. Okay. Let's see here. 2 more minutes. What do we got here? You got another one for me, Tyler? If you were new to flipping, would you go straight to luxury by partnering with a flipper that does luxury, that's done luxury, and just give him all the profit? To me, I value a margin over volume model. Oh my gosh, me too. So Scott Allen, I'm all about margin over volume. So like in the very beginning, I gave the example of that deal I flipped for 805,000. You saw that house. It was 2,300 square feet. It was a cosmetic flip. It wasn't hard. I just was in a high-end neighborhood that homes sell for 800,000. But my profit is 170,000. Now that same house selling for 300,000, I would have made 25 or 30. Same house, same rehab, same process. Got to get money, got to pay contractors, got to get an agent, got to sell it, all the same. Nothing's different. One makes 170, one makes 30. Which one would you rather do? For the same time, energy, and effort, I would rather do bigger deals. Having said that, doing big deals is developmental. So what I wish I understood, Scott, was when I got into the game, that my end game was to move into margin and move up to luxury. It took me a long time to grasp that. So I did a bunch of very small margin, high volume, small margin for a while until I caught the vision. So if you're starting out though, I don't really care where you start. Like start anywhere, just start. Get some deals under your belt. Doesn't even matter how much you make. Transact, start in whatever market you're in. But I would most definitely have the vision of as quickly as you can transitioning up to high margin. I got a deal right here, a couple streets over from where I live, where I'm building new construction to flip. I'm going to be all in for 3.5 million, and I'm going to try to sell it for 7 to 10 million. Okay, so I might, if everything lines up, I might make $4 or $5 million on one deal. One deal. Okay, so there's margin for you. More on that deal than most wholesalers and flippers make over 2 or 3 years doing hundreds of deals on one deal. So I'm a big believer in that. Okay, So guys, we are out of time. Awesome time with you guys. I'm just going to put this up here one more time just so you guys have it. But I want to encourage you guys to further your education in the Fast Track program. It's not just about coaching. Like if all it is that, then I don't want you doing it. It's about application. I want to help you, work with you directly with you and my team to help you build. If you haven't done your first deal, the first step is get your first deal. Second step is to build a 6-figure income doing this, and then scale it to a 7-figure. So if your end game is to make $1 million or more a year doing this business, Fast Track's the right program for you. Go to fasttrackwithjerry.com. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys. And I can't wait to see you